All praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash. Next, I want to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the Lord's elect. We will be using Gemini. This is through the power and spirit of Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Salakia. Gemini is being fed the truth, so it has no choice but to stick to the facts of the scriptures and the truth of the scriptures. And that starts with acknowledging the true, powerful, and holy name of the Heavenly Father Yahawah and His only begotten Son Yahawashi, and acknowledging the true children of Israel, which is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And this is not a so-called black thing. The Lord has scattered His people among all nations. We're going to come looking like all nations. So we're going Jeremiah 49 and verse 10. But I have made Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. You see, because the Lord is exposing this devil through his prophets, our apostles, our bishops, and our elders at the Church of Great Millstone. Let's go. I'm going to get the Numbers 24 and verse 15. This is what I put in Gemini. It says, and he took up his parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor, has said, and the man whose eyes are open have said. You see, the Lord gave this heathen a vision of what Israel, the nation of Israel, starting with the elect, is going to do in the last days. He have said, which heard the words of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, and knew the knowledge of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, that's Yahawashi, who you falsely and ignorantly call JC. And he's a so-called Negro. He looks like a so-called Negro, Salakia. And a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. That's all you heathen. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, that's Yahawashi Mashiach, the kingdom of heaven, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. And when he looked on Amalek, see, that's them so-called Ish people, Jewish people, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. And that lines up with Obadiah. That's what's going to happen to you Edomites, man. The Lord's going to do away with your whole nation after you serve your 1,000 years of captivity. You see, and Amalek was the grandson of Esau. That's who's in the Holy Land claiming that they're us. That's the wicked, the devil that the Bible speaks of. So on Gemini, I said, according to the facts of the scriptures, I put Numbers 24 and verse 20 on there. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he shall perish forever. Amalek today is a so-called Jewish people. According to the direct, literal facts of the scriptures, the lineage of Amalek is traced clearly, and the prophecy in Numbers 24 and verse 20 outlines their specific role and final judgment. You see, the scriptures trace these devils. The scriptural origin of Amalek. The scriptures trace the exact physical bloodline of Amalek, showing that he was a descendant of Esau, Edom, not of Jacob. Genesis 36 and verse 12. And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare Eliphaz, Amalek. The scriptural fact, Amalek is the grandson of Esau. Therefore, the Amalekites are a distinct, prominent branch of the nation of Edom, the Edomites. Amalek was the first of the nations, number 24 and verse 20. When the prophet Balaam, he was a heathen, looked upon Amalek in Numbers 24 and verse 20 and uttered this parable, the term first has a specific scriptural meaning. The first to attack, and it means the first of the nations, meaning that they will be chief. They will rule everything. Scripturally, the Amaleks were the very first nation to launch an unprovoked, brutal attack on the children of Israel, the ancestors of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, after they came out of Egypt. Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim, Deuteronomy 25, 17-18. Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi commands Israel to remember what Amalek did, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindermost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. And to this day, they don't fear the Lord, because they were the first fruits of the nations to try to destroy Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi's chosen people. They received a unique, permanent judgment. His latter end shall be that he perish forever. The scriptures state that the judgment of Amalek is completely extermination. You see? Executed by Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi himself, Exodus 17 and verse 14. And Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi said unto Moses, I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. the scriptural fact because they are the head house of Edom. Their final destruction is tied to the end of Edom's world dominion and the physical return of Hamashiach Yahawashi to establish the kingdom of Israel. That's why it tells you in Isaiah 63. It says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? You see? Esau, Edom, the so-called white men of top banking families, Edom and Basra are symbolic for America. This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. The Lord is coming to deliver the elect of the nation of Israel. Then it goes to say, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is coming. Who is the redeemed of the Lord? See, the nation of Israel starting with the elect, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Verse 4, for the time has come for me to avenge my people, to ransom them from their oppressors. Who is Amalek today? In modern geopolitical and theological terms, the so-called Jewish people currently occupy the land of Israel and claim the heritage of Judah. However, when applying the facts of the scriptures alongside historical migrations, a different picture emerges. The usurpation of identity. The scriptures speak of a group of people in the latter days who will claim to be Jews, but are not. And that was talking about wicked Israelites, but it's twofold. You can use it for them devils that's over there in the land. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 3 and verse 9, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. The Edomite Amalekite connection. The scriptural analysts who trace the migrations of Esau, Edom, point out that the ruling elite of the modern global banking, political, and religious systems who currently claim the identity of Israel are actually the physical descendants of Amalek, the chief house of Edom. Yeah, because Amalek would be the matter of fact, man, that's heavy right there. Let's go back to Numbers 24. See, it said Amalek will be the first of the nations, man. Let's get that. Which is the so-called Ish people. They own everything. It's the only group of people who, if you say something about, they label you anti, you know what, and then try to lock you up. Let's get that. The first, the beginning, best, chief. You see, they're chief. That word chief mean they own everything. A person in position of the highest authority or leadership. You see? The top banking families, man. But their latter end should be that they perish forever, as it tells you in Obadiah 15, man. All you Edomites. Every single last one of y'all, man. Y'all gonna be done away with after you serve your captivity. Obadiah 18. And it reads, in the house of Jacob shall be a fire, in the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi have spoken it. You see? The Lord has made Esau a bear, man. By taking the land of Israel and claiming the heritage of the true children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they are living out the prophecy of Ezekiel 36 and verse 5, where Edom appoints Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi's land into their possession. Let's get that. Ezekiel 36, and we'll go 2 and then 5. It says, thus saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. Verse 5, therefore thus saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which is the Greek way of saying Edom, which have appointed my land into their possessions, with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. In the NLT that says, this is what the sovereign Lord, Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi says, my jealous anger burns against these nations, especially Edom, you see, because they have shown utter contempt for me by gleefully taking my land for themselves as plunder. You see? The verdict, according to the scriptural facts, Amalek is the top ruling lineage of Esau, Edom today, the people who claim to be the true Jews, but do not fit the curses of Deuteronomy 28. Yet, hold the wealth, power, and the land of Israel perfectly aligned with the scriptural description of Amalek, Edom, ruling the end-time Babylon, right before their prophesied eternal destruction, as it tells you in Psalms 137 and verse 7. It says, remember, O Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, the children of Edom, and the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, which means destroy it, even to the foundation thereof. You see, Edom, right there, remember the children of Edom, remember the so-called white man. O daughter of Babylon, because that's who rules America, Babylon the Great, Esau, Edom. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dashes thy little ones against the stones. You see? The Lord's getting ready to judge this place, man, because in her was found the blood of the prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. This bloody man. Let's get that. Ezekiel. Matter of fact, let's get Esau, Edom. Now, these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Thus dwelleth Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. So when you go to Ezekiel 35, prophesy against Mount Seir, a message for Edom. Verse 5. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, and the time of their calamity, and the time of their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sith thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Thus will I make Mount Seir, which is Esau Edom, most desolate, and cut off from him that passeth out, and him that returneth. I will fill his mountains with his slain men, in thy hills, and in all thy valleys, and in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy cities shall not return, and ye shall know that I am Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries, that's the northern and southern kingdom, shall be mine, and we will possess it. Whereas Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi was there, you see? In the NLT, it says, for you said the lands of Israel, which is talking about the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. For you said the lands of Israel and Judah will be ours. We will take possession of them. What do we care that Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi is there? And when you go down, it tells you that it's talking about the children of Israel. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power, I will even do according to thine anger and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, the children of Israel. And I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. See, because these two nations and these two countries is talking about the northern and southern kingdom of the nation of Israel, the two kingdoms. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And let's get into some more. Joel 2 and verse 18. It says, deliverance promised. Then will Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi be jealous for his land and pity his people. See, the Lord is jealous for his land. That's why y'all are going to war, as it tells you in Joel 3. At the time of those events, says Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, when I restore the prosperity of Judah and Jerusalem, when the Lord turns our captivity, starting with the elect. This is what the Lord is getting ready to do, what he is currently doing. Matter of fact, we can pull up end time headlines. You can see what the Lord is doing. You see? He's stirring up war over there in the so-called Middle East, man, the valley of Yahawashi. Zephaniah 3 and verse 8. We'll get that. It's going to keep escalating, man. It ain't going to stop. Because the Lord's getting ready to destroy you devils, and he's not playing, man. He's not playing at all. I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Yahawashi. It's over there in the so-called Middle East. There I will judge them for harming my people, my special possession, for scattering my people among the nations, and for dividing up my land. You see, they threw dice to decide which of my people would be their slaves. They traded boys to obtain prostitutes and sold girls for enough wine to get drunk. See, so the Lord said in verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, all you heathen, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And the so-called white man, Esau Edom, is the chief of the heathen. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, because y'all are getting ready to meet. You see, the heavenly host, who you're currently blaspheming, talking about the so-called UFOs. They're little green men from Mars, and those UFOs are IFOs. They're identified flying objects. Those are the chariots of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. Those are the angels. They occupy. Those are the vehicles of the angels, should I say. You see? And the Lord's going to cause his mighty ones to come down, which that's Yahawashi in the heavenly host. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahawashi, over there in the so-called Middle East. Yahawashi means Yahweh's judgment. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi is near in the valley of decision. You see, thousands upon thousands. You see, in the NLT, thousands upon thousands are waiting in the valley of decision. There, the day of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi will soon arrive, right there in the valley of decision. You see, in the so-called Middle East. Revelation 14 and verse 14. And I looked and behold a white cloud. That's Yahawashi on his fathership, a so-called UFO. And upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man. That's Yahawashi, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. You see, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time has come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. You see, that's what Yahawashi is coming to do. He's coming to wage war against all you heathen. The coming up of Mashiach Yahawashi. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, pure power. That's Yahawashi's fathership. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doth judge and make war. He's going to have that sickle. You see? In fact, verse 15, it says, and out of his mouth goeth his sharp sword, that with it he shall smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. You see? They're going to try to fight Yahawashi when he comes. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. But what does it tell you in Psalms 110 and verse 5? Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi at thy right hand shall strike through kings in the day of his wrath. He shall judge among the heathen. He shall fill the places with the dead bodies. He shall wound the heads over many countries. Is it Esau, Edom, the so-called white man? You're at the top of that list, man. So according to the facts of the scriptures, with that being said, Edom, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man cannot be done away with. According to prophecy, it's impossible, because we got some ungodly demons who say, oh, the Edomites are done away with. No, they're not. They're here. They're in power. The wicked. The earth was given into the hand of the wicked. According to the facts of the scriptures, you have pointed out a vital, unchangeable prophetic truth. The nation of Edom cannot and will not be done away with or destroyed until after they fulfill their prophetic destiny in the end times, and we are in the end times. Any doctrine claiming that Esau, Edom, was already destroyed in ancient times directly contradicts the scriptures. The prophets lay out specific absolute conditions for the latter days that prove Edom must be alive in power and ruling the world right up until the second coming of Hamashiach Yahawashi. Revert back to Isaiah 63. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? Both are symbolic for America. But Esau, Edom, he's ruling. You see? Ezekiel 35 and verse 4. No, Salakia. Is that Ezekiel? Isaiah 35 and verse 5. No, Salakia, bear with me. Slacky, it was Isaiah 34 and verse 5. I got a little mix-up, brain fart. And when my sword in the NLT has finished its work in the heavens, that's those ICBM nuclear missiles, it will fall upon Edom. You see, the Edom is symbolic for America. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. That nation I have marked for destruction. The sword of the Lord is drenched with blood and covered with fat, with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of rams prepared for sacrifice. Yes, Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi will offer a sacrifice in the city of Basra. He will make a mighty slaughter in Edom. You see, they're still here, man. Here are the scriptural facts proving why Edom cannot be done away with yet. The end of the world ruler, the Apocrypha, which was part of the original KJV Bible, contains a direct mathematical timeline of who will be in power at the end of the earth. 2 Ezra 6 and verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. The scriptural fact, this prophecy dictates that the physical descendants of Esau, Edom, must be in dominant global superpower, ruling the world right at the very end. If Edom had been wiped out in ancient history, the world would have had to end under their rule back then, but it didn't, because it's now and they're here. Because the kingdom of Jacob, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, has not yet been established on earth, Edom must still be on the scene, holding the reins of the global power structure today, and he is. It's a so-called white man. The final deliverance requires Edom's presence. For Hamashiach Yahawashi to execute the specific judgments written in the prophets, Edom has to be physically present to receive them. Isaiah 63 and verse 1, I read that. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? The scriptural fact, Hamashiach Yahawashi's return is directly described as a conquest started in the land of Edom, which is America, involving a massive slaughter of the ruling Edomite power structure. If Edom did not exist in the end times, this key prophecy of the second coming would be impossible to fulfill. The two nations' struggle must conclude. The very first prophecy regarding Jacob and Esau establishes a perpetual struggle that spans the entire history of the earth. Genesis 25 and verse 23, two nations are in thy womb, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Right. Esau, you're going to serve. You're getting ready to go into captivity. The scriptural fact, the elder Esau has never collectively and permanently served the younger Jacob, Israel, in the manner described in the end time prophecies. According to Obadiah 1 and verse 21, that order is only corrected at the very end, and saviors shall come up out of Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be Yahawah's. You see, Bahasham Yahawashi's. When does Edom perish? The scriptures do prophesy a time when Edom will be completely done away with, but only after Hamashiach Yahawashi returns, gathers the elect, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and uses them to execute the Father's wrath. It tells you that in Ezekiel 12:25. Salakia, bear with me. Mine a little cloudy. I keep mixing them up. Edom, thus saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Israel by taking vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel in the kingdom, you see? And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi power. Shalom.